So if we can hear over the washing machine in the next room. Yeah, washing machines in kitchens in Britain. We've got a Stereomaster, HMV Stereomaster 2411, and they've brought the chassis in for repair. If I can just get that in the shot. So on Mr. Chippy's bench, audio stuff. It's a product they've bought from a second-hand shop, and they've paid the right price. I think he said 35 quid or something like that. Anyway, we do see these things with telephone number prices in an unrestored condition. You know, but when you look at closed sales on eBay, they don't really fetch £2,000. So he says it works, and because it's dangerous putting these kind of things on without changing capacitors. Now these are what, the 1971, 73 kind of era, so you're looking at 50 years old. And these black electrolytic capacitors, Hunt's often the make, and these other plastic ones, the orange ones, started to play up when these things were only about 3 years old. And it's not because they put crap parts in. You know, I don't want you to think that they thought, well, what rubbish can we make? These things were supposed to be a product that you could pass on to your children and your grandchildren, and you know, they have stood the test of time. So we've got one on the radio chassis. This is a 2411, so it doesn't have the stereo decoder. The 2412 had the stereo decoder, and that would sit just in that, just get that on there so you can see, in that blank bit there, and would plug into what looks like a valve socket there as a blanking plug-in, so that it will work in mono. And you think, well, why didn't they do stereo radio for all of them? And the reason is, of course, it was about £16 more money. So it made the 2411 about £85, whereas the 2412, the stereo one, was about £100. Of course, you could pay more, you know. I remember Stringers of Wickersley would have everything at recommended price plus about 20%. They knew how to charge. Yes, we'll send one down for you, and you can, yeah, all that bedside manner, but you paid for it. So he says it works, which is great. It was on in the second-hand shop where he bought it from, and your main amplifier module is on the back here, and this is where the problematic electrolytic capacitors are really going to be. As an experiment, I put one of these on we bought off eBay, and 20 minutes later one of these capacitors blew up. So you've got two down there which are 750 microfarads, and we actually buy in 750 microfarads. You know, we go to a lot of trouble to get those. The main one there, the main smoothing electrolytic, will be changed, and the other ones which are interesting values are 300 microfarads, which we replace with 330. Now we do have them in stock, but I want to do this entirely with Nikon capacitors. We've got 330s in stock, but not Nikon, so I have ordered them, and it's just an RS item, so that shouldn't be a problem. Power supply regulator is here. Of course, you've got to have a regulated power supply because the Varicap tuner is looking at a voltage to do the tuning. And the earliest version of this, the 2428 with the radio, about 1967, I think was the first product with electronic tuning, which I certainly ever saw in the UK. So we're going to, the difficulty is getting down to this board. It means we've got to take the front off. It's a pain in the what's it. The later ones have got access to the other side, but not so on this version. So this unscrews, it folds over, that's not so difficult. This is a bit of a swine, and this has got quite a few. This is the preamp board to kind of get to. So I'm going to make a start on this. I don't know whether Mr. Chippy's going to carry on with this. I'm not going to plug it in and demonstrate it. The stereo transmission light is of course only for the 2411, or if you had the optional decoder upgrade. I'm going to suggest to the customer that we order and fit a red neon with the works taken out of it, so it's just a lens, so that it looks complete and it hasn't got that hole there. And they're only about £1, and I think that's worth it for the aesthetics. So certainly had lots of volume use, as the screen printing has just about worn away there. A very nice and a very worthwhile unit. One of his speakers is Duff, and I've never known that on a 2411. So I've told him where to order them from, and that is from CPC. They're only about £12 each. So there we go. So what we'll do, I've made up a kit, and this is what we do. We have these kits for every one of these Stereomasters which we work on. This one covers the 2412, so it automatically covers the 2411 by not putting the decoder parts in, which aren't there. So there's 300, 50, 300, 750. We've got the lamps, which are 24 volt, 2.9 MES. MES means miniature Edison screw. 2 microfarads, we put 2.2 in. 8, we put 10 in. 300, we put 330 in. 150 when you've got the stereo decoder, and again another 8. In a tuner we've got an 8 which we put in 10, and then the 4500 we put 4700 in, and we put in about 70 volts to make it exactly the right size so it fits in the clips. So the only capacitor which is going to be undersized is these 750s, and we buy these in specially, and these are too small, but the P clips do adjust, and although I've got quite a few of those in stock, they ain't cheap. Right, we'll get the soldering iron on and we will get this underway. So we're back on Mr. Chippy's bench with the HMV Stereomaster 2411, now with new capacitors, new electrolytic capacitors throughout. Now, as I took, there's a good handful of 20 odd parts here, so I'll just move the camcorder viewfinder around so I can actually see what I'm showing you. So I've got 2 of these in the preamplifier board here with 2 microfarads, both of which are Duff. It goes without saying that these Callin's black plastic ones, 2 of those are Duff out of the preamplifier as well. 100 microfarads, black Callin's type, power supply, totally open circuit. And then we've got one of the 330 microfarad ones. Although it reads reasonably, it has a cracked case. So there's 5 components which were no good. And although this works in inverted commas, yeah, what can one say? It's obviously going to work better now. I wasn't going to listen to how it worked because it isn't going to be safe for the product. What you don't want to be doing is having a short circuit on something like this and then finding out that you're blowing transistors which are very difficult to replace for no real reason. So I'll just plug that in down here. One of the things the customer mentioned is there's no pilot lamp, so I'll put that in because it helps us to know that there's, I think it's 24 volts high tension. They do differ, and without looking at the manual I won't remember anyway. One of the pains in the bottom is that this button bank has to come out. To swivel that board up, so you've got the screws to take out, you've got some wires to unsolder to pull it up enough to get to both sides, and there's 8 BA screws with captive nuts here, so you've actually got to, obviously you'll have got this out anyway and folded it back, got to dislodge the printed circuit board, dislodge the next printed circuit board, and then get a tiny screwdriver in to those, and that is one of the pains. Anyway, it's done. And one of the things to be mindful is that positive and negative, oh yeah, they are shown, aren't they? There's an extra dot on the positive. I've been doing these for decades and not realised that. The tuner board says positive, negative. Can't remember what the stabiliser board says, but we've obviously changed that one on it. And then you've got the big electrolytic with the filter one there, and it's, you have to remember, it's positive to ground. Makes it unusual. So I'm going to have to run off a copy of the service manual because I need to make sure that the stabilised voltage, is it 30 volts, something like that, for the tuner is absolutely spot on. Otherwise that can be problematic. So what we now need to do is to connect up our speakers. So that's our left hand one. I'm bound to get this wrong. And that's our right hand one. So I'm going to have to just crocodile clip these around because we're not, it's got this proprietary plug. I'm not going to put the front on because if there's a problem, I don't have all that dismantling only to do it again. So though I'm always careful doing these and I'm experienced doing these, I'm not daft enough to put the whole thing back together before testing. So let's get some crocodile clip leads. Don't know which is left and right channel. Can soon correct that if it's wrong and if it even mattered. So we need to connect that to there. I'm going to connect this. These are a bit heavy duty. Now this is going to be fun, isn't it, with them flying off. I'll tell you what, we'll connect it to this spring. It's not really the best point, is it? But at least it'll stay put. So we'll put, that happens to be yellow wire, so we may as well put the yellow one to that channel. And this is a, what colour? Do you know, it's green. I picked these crocodile clip leads absolutely at random. There we go. Now it's time to switch on and see what happens. So as you can see, we've got the pilot light. I hope you can see we've got the pilot light. So we need to select FM. So count the buttons. It's the second one along. Put some volume on it. Bass, treble, balance, volume. Right. That doesn't seem quite right. Have I got the mono button in? No. Right, we'll get another crocodile clip lead to use as an aerial. Now we're in a poor reception area here, so we're going to get a scratchy bit of something. So we've got bass and treble, cut and boost. Left, right, volume, good. Making sure there isn't any transistor that's hotter than others. Some bizarre classical music, that. I'm going to be careful not to put pop records on because we know what the copyright police do. I was doing that Sonab amplifier, put it on a classical station, didn't get any strikes or anything, so that seems to be the thing to do. So there we go. I think we're okay. So I'm going to now start putting it back together. Just tune around.
Some people find it quite annoying.
That's actually better.
Eastman himself conducting an ensemble at the University of Buffalo in that archive recording that was released in 2005 on New World Records, kicking off the resurgence of his music. Well, I hope you can join me tomorrow to discover how Eastman got his big break, not in music of his own, but giving a searing performance of an early work by Peter Maxwell Davis. And I'll be talking again to Devon Tynes, who'll be telling me how he came to discover Eastman's music.
Composer of the Week was presented by Donald MacLeod and produced in Cardiff by Amelia Parker.
A thought-provoking new drama by Rex Urbano.
You're a history professor denying 400 years of the history you teach.
Universities were a place where we 3FM, digital radio and on BBC Sounds. It's 1 o'clock, time for the news and weather, read for us by John Hammond.
The Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, has defended his decision to increase taxes, saying he needed to...
Okay, so that's working fine. Let's just see. I've got an input on... I don't know where the gram input goes. So that goes to mains, so that's going to be the turntable. Where is it? Ah, it's here. It's under. It's just, there's a socket there. So let's turn the volume up, and I'll put my finger on the input. I'll turn the volume down a bit. That's far too loud. Left channel. Right channel. That's fine. What else could we do? We could plug a cassette in as a demonstration. Is that necessary? Yeah, I'll pause the video and we'll plug a cassette in. So we're on tape now, just playing very quickly so we don't get the copyright police. Mono, stereo. So that sounds fine, and we'll now put the front on it. Right, so there we are with it all nicely working. Lots of FM hiss, of course, with the poor reception here, but that is not, you know, that's fine. We know how that is. So, in conclusion, if this was the 2412, if this had been retrofitted with the radio stereo decoder, then a beacon lamp would show when there was stereo transmissions. The lens should be fitted, and I will ask him if he wants me to put a lens in, because we can actually get them as a mains neon from RS and just use the lens bit of it, and it stops there being a hole there. So there we are, another nice Stereomaster saved from destruction, and will no doubt work for another 40 odd years before it next needs some service work. So thank you for watching the HMV 2411 Stereomaster from about 1973.